Imagine a remote farmstead, nestled deep in the Bavarian countryside of Germany. The year is 1922. This place is called Hinterkaifeck, home to the Gruber family. It is a place that is about to become the setting for one of the most disturbing and perplexing unsolved mysteries in history. 4 months leading up to the tragedy, strange things were happening. The family maid quit, claiming the house was haunted. She said she heard footsteps in the attic and disembodied voices. The family patriarch, Andreas Gruber, found a newspaper from Munich on his property, a paper he had never bought. He also discovered a set of footprints in the fresh snow, leading from the dense forest straight to the farm's back door. But strangely, there were no footprints leading away. He told neighbors about these odd occurrences, but he never went to the police. Perhaps he thought he could handle it himself. Was wrong. On the evening of March 31st, 1922, something terrible happened. One by one, the members of the Gruber family, Andreas, his wife Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, and her 7-year-old daughter, also named Cecilia, were lured into the barn. There, in the dim light, they were brutally murdered with a mattock, a type of pickaxe. The killer, or killers, didn't stop there. They went back inside the main house and murdered Victoria's 2-year-old son, Joseph, as he slept in his cot. Finally, they killed the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had arrived just hours before the massacre. She never stood a chance. The scene was one of unimaginable horror. The police would later find the body of young Cecilia, with clumps of her own hair clutched tightly in her small hands, a testament to the terror she must have felt in her final moments. For the next 4 days, life at Hinterkaifeck appeared to continue, at least from a distance. Neighbors saw smoke curling from the chimney. The family's cattle and other farm animals were fed and watered. Someone was clearly still living in the house, but the Grubers were nowhere to be seen. The mailman noticed the mail piling up. Young Cecilia didn't show up for school on Monday. Finally, on April 4th, a few concerned neighbors decided to form a search party and investigate. What they found would haunt them for the rest of their lives. After breaking into the barn, they discovered the 4 bodies, stacked and covered with hay. Inside the house, they found the bodies of the baby and the new maid in their beds. A meal was half-eaten on the kitchen table. The beds had been slept in. The horrifying truth began to sink in. The murderer had remained at the farm 4 days after the killings, living alongside their victims, tending to the animals, and eating the family's food. The investigation that followed was massive, but it was also a mess from the start. The crime scene was contaminated by the dozens of people who had walked through it before the police properly secured it. The initial autopsies were conducted right there in the barn. The victims' heads were even removed and sent to a clairvoyant in Munich for examination, in a desperate attempt to find clues. Over the years, more than 100 suspects were interviewed. The list included Victoria's estranged husband, Karl Gabriel, who was believed to have died in World War I, but some speculated he might have returned. Thierry was Lorenzo Slittenberg, a neighbor who had a contentious relationship with the Grubers, and was one of the first to discover the bodies. His behavior was suspicious, but nothing could ever be proven. Vagrants, drifters, and even family members were all considered, but every lead turned into a dead end. No one was ever convicted. The motive remains a complete mystery. Was it robbery? The family had money, but a large amount was found untouched in the house. Was it a crime of passion, or was it something far more sinister and personal? The case of Hinterkaifeck has become a dark legend in Germany. The farm was demolished a year after the murders, as if to erase the terrible memory. But you can't erase something like this. Today, only an empty field and a small shrine mark the spot where the Gruber family met their end. Locals have whispered stories for generations. Some say that on quiet nights, you can still see lights flickering on in the field where the farmhouse once stood. They say the restless spirits of the Grubers, and perhaps their killer, still linger. The questions hang in the air, unanswered for over a century. Who would commit such a brutal act? Why did they stay in the house for days? And how did they manage to vanish without a trace, leaving only a set of footprints leading from the forest, but none leading back out? The Hinterkaifeck murders remain a chilling reminder that some mysteries are so dark, they may never be solved. What do you think happened at that isolated German farm? Is there a logical explanation, or is something more supernatural at play? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Every country has its own dark tales and unsolved mysteries. Which country's secrets should we uncover next? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into the unknown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. Stay curious. Stay curious.